Oh, this is, again, a very complex topic. First, yes, in a way, I think one should, how should I put it, de-fetishize violence. I think that this total horror at violence today, it's part of this liberal tolerance ideology, and, you know, you start criticizing violence, you start criticizing violence, at the end you advocate torture. I think that Guantanamo and all that, it's a necessary consequence of this apparent anti-violent liberalism, whatever. No, my basic view on violence, as I repeat it all the time, is that usually we locate violence as something which, how do we measure violence? Violence is something which disturbs the way things are usually going. Something interrupts the usual run of things, oh my God, it's violence. But I think that we should, again, another example of parallax, we should change the perspective and see the invisible violence which has to be here all the time so that things go on as normal. This violence interests me. It can be objective economic violence, it can be police violence, whatever. So the aspect of political violence that interests me, it's not so much physical violence, killing people, whatever. It's always, if you really want to change the basic functioning of the existing order, it is by definition perceived as violence. And here I try to rehabilitate, but of course in a totally non-theological way, what Walter Benjamin called divine violence. It's not Al-Qaeda. It's not violence as an instrument of God. It's something totally different. I see it as what? Walter Benjamin and many others drew attention to a, how should I put it, necessary excess of state violence. In the sense that even in the most democratic society, where power is totally legitimized democratically, in order for state power to function, there has to be some kind of super-ego threat, in the sense that, yeah, we live in a democracy, but ultimately we can do whatever we want. No power exists without this excess. And for me, what Benjamin calls divine violence is a kind of a counter-violence to this excess. And in this sense, let me be very clear. I am for violence, but I think Gandhi was more violent than Hitler. Wasn't it that Hitler's violence in killing millions was basically, to use the terms of Nietzsche, reactive violence? He was afraid that something will really change. As we all know, fascism was a desperate attempt to save capitalism. But what Gandhi did, although he was against violence, the way he started to, through boycott, through strike, to stop the entire functioning of the colonial economy and state apparatus in India. That's the violence I am for. I also think there is another aspect of violence, which is why I like a film which many of my liberal friends are horrified at, with Brad Pitt and Ed Norton. David Fincher's, I hope you saw it, Fight Club. If you are not sure if a friend of yours is a liberal or a true leftist, show him that film and ask him. If he will say, no, it's a proto-fascist film, he is a liberal, dismiss him. Why? The lesson is very, you know that wonderful scene in the film where the guy, through his fist, starts to beat himself. This is needed. Liberation hurts. Liberation costs. So, this is my first point. Sorry, what was your second question that I will brief?
Zizek, a segunda pergunta vai ficar para depois. Eu preciso fazer mais um intervalo. Lamento, porque eu também tenho um alter ego. Né? E vamos fazer mais um intervalo e voltamos com o último bloco do nosso Roda da Vida de hoje. Até já.